Hello, and welcome to the nonprofit world, where we highlight organizations and individuals passionate about empowering people to make a difference in the lives of others, serving in our community and around the world. I'm Paula Sorrells-Bean, guest host for today's program. And I want to introduce you to Scott Heth. He is the Executive Director for Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Glad you're here with us today. Scott has 30 years experience with the National Audubon Society. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Forestry from the University of Vermont. He is certified to teach in Connecticut schools and has an extensive experience in environmental education and conservation. And in addition to that, he is a licensed wildlife rehabilitator.
I am.
That sounds like a great opportunity to help out a lot of creatures that need assistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Scott, tell us a little bit about the history of Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut.
So Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut started in 1969. So coming up, we're going to have our 50th anniversary, which we're very excited about. It started at what's now called the Harry C. Barnes Memorial Nature Center, with the purchase of a piece of property there, and that was all facilitated by volunteers at the time. And then eventually a facility was built, the Nature Center itself. And from then on, we started reaching out to the community to basically get people to understand about nature, learn about nature, having experiences in nature through naturalists and through trails and things like that. Eventually, we got the Indian Rock Nature Preserve, and that was in 1977. And we continue to grow. Since then, we now have about 730 acres of land that we protect, in addition to the education facilities that we have.
Okay. I love the mission statement, to inspire the appreciation and enjoyment of nature through education and conservation, fostering a healthy environment and an improved quality of life.
Well said.
So that's like a three-part mission statement.
It really is, and I think each part leads to the next part. Mm-hmm. So, we want to inspire people of all ages to get outside, to experience what nature has to offer. And of course, there's lots of different benefits to being outside: educational benefits, health benefits, social benefits. And we're hoping that will lead to people becoming good stewards of the environment. So, fostering a healthy environment. And because we're fostering a healthy environment, we're improving quality of life. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time crafting that mission statement to really make sure that it fit what we thought our goals and objectives were. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. The Environmental Learning Centers has a lot of hands-on programs. Yep. Could you tell us a little bit about those programs? Sure.
So, to inspire the appreciation and enjoyment of nature, our main focus is education. And our main demographic right now are school children. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of programs, field trips from schools and to schools. We educate about 20,000 kids a year on various different topics having to do with the environment. Really trying to make sure that our programs are meshed with the state and national standards, education standards. So not only are we giving students a good experience, but we're also helping teachers meet their mandated curriculum. We also do, we have a very big summer camp, the Indian Rock Summer Camp. Okay. And about 120 kids per week, each week over the course of the summer. So it gives us the opportunity to get kids outside for longer extended periods of time than what they would normally do on a 2 to 3 hour field trip. So we sort of immerse them in nature, give them some tools to be able to understand the natural world and experience it for summer camp.
And what is the age group for the children coming to summer camp?
It's 5 to 15.
5 to 15.
Well, it's I should say, kindergarten through 10th grade we have programming for. And then we have what's called a CIT program, Counselor in Training Program, where kids who are older than that can take a course and then can actually help us teach the classes. Are
those usually kids that have been through the program themselves?
A lot of them are. A lot of them are, and a lot of my staff actually have gone through the summer camp originally as well.
So the Environmental Learning Center of Connecticut also serves as a land trust and with protection of the land. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
You can't inspire the appreciation of nature without land itself. So we really strive to improve the integrity of our existing properties by adding property to that and managing that property for wildlife, for education, for recreational purposes. So we have several properties that are distributed in Bristol, in Southington, and in Burlington, Connecticut. That we do just that. We either use for educational purposes or manage for wildlife, particularly wildlife that is what's considered either endangered, threatened, or species of special concern in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. I saw on your website that the Harry C. Barnes Memorial Nature Center has some new exhibits.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the new exhibits and some of the live animals that you have?
We, a couple of years ago, we did a complete renovation on the inside of the Nature Center using a lot of volunteer support, which was really great, empowering volunteers to put their creativity out there and make some really nice exhibits. So we have what we call Harry's Treehouse, which is an area where people can walk up a little ramp, and there's a tree in the middle of it, and then surrounding that tree are all kinds of exhibits, tank exhibits, where we have, various different snakes and amphibians and turtles and insects and various things that people can look at and learn from. Then we have an area where we have live birds. We have some birds that have been rehabilitated but can't be released because their injuries are such that they wouldn't survive in the wild. And so we have a barred owl, we have 2 eastern screech owls, and we have a red-tailed hawk. And then we have a children's discovery room where real young kids can go in and just basically tactily touch things in nature and learn about things by putting puzzles together and various different things like that. So we're trying to cater to people from that toddler age all the way up to senior citizen and everybody in between. So it creates a really nice hands-on type of experience. And then, of course, we have trails. So the whole idea is that we want our interior of the Nature Center not to be standalone. We want that to be the catalyst to get people outside. Because that's the ultimate goal, is to get people outside. What
age group do you think gets most excited about coming into the center there?
That's a good question, and I think I've seen people of all ages get excited depending on what they're looking at. Obviously the children really like it a lot, but we're really trying to do more programs for adults because I think that they also have the innate desire to protect the environment and protect nature, and everybody just needs the tools and the information to be able to do that.
Right. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You talked about the Indian Rock Nature Preserve. How did it get its name?
There is an Indian Rock, and Indian Rock is actually a rock that's right next to Route 69, Wolcott Road in Bristol, and that road used to be a main thoroughfare for the Tungus Indians. And the property that is consists of Indian Rock Nature Preserve now was the preferred hunting grounds for the Tungus Indians who came from their settlement next to the Farmington River. And so they would trek from the Farmington River to the Indian Rock area, which was called Morgan's Swamp, and hunt, but they couldn't get back the same day. So they would stay overnight under Indian Rock. Was kind of like the Days Inn of the time, which is basically a rock with a cavity underneath and an overhang, so it could fit several people. And it actually, if you go into the cavity, which we have our kids do all the time, that's a favorite thing for them to do. And if you look up underneath the ceiling of the cave, you can see remnants of smoke from centuries of fires that were built in there during the time. So, and if you can do a search on the internet for Indian Rock, Bristol, there's all kinds of folklore about it and stuff.
Yeah, okay, all right. And I understand too that there are some Indian housing on some of the trails, or on one of the trails, wigwams.
There's some wigwams. They're not original.
No, okay.
No, those were recreated. So because we're Indian Rock and because of the legacy of Indian Rock, we do quite a bit of Native American programming to show people how Native Americans revered the environment and used nature to help them survive, but didn't do it in an exploitive kind of manner. They really respected nature and the sustainability of nature. So we've created two recreations of Native American wigwams, which were places where the Native Americans would stay with their families. And so we do programs in there. We light a fire. We talk about the food that the Native Americans would eat and the games that their families would play and the tools that they would make out of bones and stones and vegetation. So it creates, and it's in a really nice conifer forest right up against our pond. So it really makes for a nice illusion of going back into time and becoming a Native American themselves.
Now, are there hiking trails both at Indian Rock and at the Memorial Nature Center?
There are, so the Indian Rock Nature Preserve is not open for general visitation at this point. I may change that at some point, but right now it's not. And the reason is because we have kids there for programs all the time, and I need to kind of monitor who's on site. So, but we do have public programs and events there all the time, so we do get the public to come in to see Indian Rock, and that's where our camp is and everything. But the Harry C. Barnes Nature Center is our community nature center. It's open for general visitation. The trails are open dawn to dusk every day of the year, so even if the building's not open, you could go out onto the trails. And the trail actually, once you get into our woods, actually connects to the Connecticut Blue Trail. And you can walk from the Barnes Nature Center to the Sessions Woods Wildlife Management Area through the woods. And and Sessions Woods is in Burlington, Connecticut. Barnes Nature Center is in Bristol. So it's kind of a nice trek, and it's a great way to connect two really great facilities.
So do you have some short trails and long trails?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we have what's called a red trail, and that was actually renamed recently Elmer's Way. Elmer Madsen was one of the volunteers who helped start the organization way back in 1969 and was still involved with us up until recently when he passed away. And we named what we call the Red Trail, which is a very short loop, very easy hike after him. And then all the other trails sort of loop out from there. They'll loop back onto each other unless you get on the Blue Trail, and then you can go further afield. So it's a really nice system of trails for if you just want to go for a half-hour walk with some young kids, or if you want to go a little bit further, you can.
And where is the starting point of the trail?
Right at the nature center.
Right at the
itself.
nature center.
Yeah, right on Shrub Road, 175 Shrub Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, easy to get to.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Great, that's great. So what kind of volunteer opportunities do you have at the centers?
So we rely on volunteers a lot. We have a very small staff. And in order for us to do all the work that we do, we involve community members. And it becomes really a program in itself because those community members learn new skills, learn about the environment when they become volunteers, and they also become the ambassadors for our organization. So they come and they volunteer with us, and then they go back into their communities and they talk about all the great experiences that they've had. So we have volunteer opportunities that range from animal care. So we have people who come in, for example, to the Barnes Nature Center, and they'll take care of the snakes and the birds and the amphibians and all the stuff that's there. We have people who are docents, volunteer docents, or kind of greeters who are there at the Nature Center, who, when people come in, they help show them around and act like guides and things. And we have, over at Indian Rock, we actually have a education farm. So we have a couple cows and sheep and chickens and turkeys and a pig and a rabbit and, all that stuff. And so we have volunteers that on a regular basis will come open the farm, feed the animals, come close the farm, and take care of them in between. But we also have opportunities for people who want to help educate, do a program. Maybe somebody has a specialization in trees, for example, and they'll come and do a tree program for us. Or they'll get trained and help do some of our programs that we do on a regular basis. We have people come in who help with trail maintenance and maintenance in general. And we do a lot of special events. So, for example, at the Barnes Nature Center, we do something called Spring Fair. Or at Indian Rock, we do Santa's Farm and pancake breakfast and things like that. So we rely on volunteers a lot to help us put those events on. And we actually have a full-time dedicated staff person who's our volunteer coordinator. Okay. And so we were able to bring Erin on, and she does the outreach. Sometimes it's awfully hard for organizations to manage volunteers because it does take time, training, yes, nurturing, for recruitment and retaining the volunteers. And so she is able to dedicate the majority of her time, in addition to animal care, to recruit and manage our volunteers.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Spring is coming up.
It is.
Can you tell us a little bit about the spring fair and when it's going to be? And do you have any of those details in place yet?
I do. I'm trying to think of the date right now, make sure I don't give the wrong date, but I'm pretty sure it's May 12th.
Okay.
And it's a free event at the Barnes Nature Center. And so we have vendors there, we have music. The Bristol Garden Club will be there selling plants in honor of spring. Bristol Rotary Club works with us, and they'll be providing food and other things. The Bristol and Meriden Gem and Mineral Clubs will be there doing education on geology. So I'm a firm believer of partnerships. I really think it's important to include other organizations in what we do, so we're not reinventing the wheel. We could do a geology program, but it's better to have the Gem and Mineral Club, who has that expertise to do that sort of thing.
That's great.
So it's a really fun event. It's a good time of year to get out. I think any time of year is a good time of year to get out, but particularly in early spring, it's a fun time to get out.
Yeah, that's great. How are you funded? How is the Environmental Center funded?
So we're a private nonprofit, not-for-profit organization, and we're funded through contributions. Primarily, I am constantly working with people and trying to get them into the fold, so to speak, and help support the organization. We do have various very generous corporations who help us and foundations who help us. We used to get quite a bit of support through state education grants through the state of Connecticut. Unfortunately, the way the budget is now, we don't have a lot of that kind of support, and we're hoping that will change. But we're able to make up for that with the corporate sponsorships and the individual gifts and foundations and things like that.
Okay. And do you work with the board of directors?
Yeah, I do, and I'm hired. I work for the board of directors. We call them board of trustees, Environmental Learning Center's board of trustees, and basically they govern the overall mission and operation of the organization, and I'm in charge for the day-to-day. So I work with them. They tell me what they think our mission is, and help to define that and help to define our policies, and within those constraints, I do the day-to-day.
So would your organization be looking for additional members of the board, or are they, what type of person are you looking for, or what qualifications are you looking for in a board member?
Great question. Yes, we're always looking for new board members. We do have term limits, so we try to rotate people through so that we get fresh ideas. So we're looking for people who, above all, have a keen interest in the environment, protecting the environment, because that's our mission. So we need someone who agrees and supports our mission. But we're looking for people who have education experience, people who have land management experience, finance experience, legal, all the types of stuff that we encounter from day to day that we could, HR type of experience, insurance, all that stuff that a nonprofit has to deal with, and can use the expertise from board members to help do that.
That's great. How would somebody contact you if they're interested in volunteering, if they're interested in being a board member, or even a teacher who's interested in coming to bring her students to you? What's the best way to contact you?
Well, we have many different ways. We have our website, which is www.elcct.org. That has a lot of our information on it. We have an email address, which is info@elcct.org, just info, so people can email us or give us a call. And our phone number is 860-583-1234, so it's fairly easy to remember.
One of the things that I noticed too is that you rent out your facilities for various functions, conference meetings,
Yep.
Private functions. And is that both the Memorial Center, Nature Center, and the Indian Rock?
So yes, both, but primarily Indian Rock Nature Preserve,
Okay.
because that's, I think, the biggest facility that we have, and it has the opportunity for different rooms, for meetings, for example. If someone wants to have breakout sessions, they can do that. It's something that we're starting to get into a little bit heavier, because we do have the facilities, and we would like them to be utilized all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's a great place for corporate retreats, for meetings, we've done weddings, various different events like that. And it works out really well. We have a staff person who helps coordinate the events. Mm-hmm. But we also rent out the Barnes Nature Center as well. And we have birthday parties there, which is kind of fun. We have different programs birthday parties. The kids can come and meet the animals and have a little place for their cake and their games and things, and so it works out really well.
And if a scout troop is interested in working on a
Badges,
badge,
yeah. So scout troops come. We have programs dedicated, especially for badge requirements. We are doing teacher training now too. We're educating teachers on new science standards. So we have a teacher training series coming up in the next several weeks, where we're getting teachers to come in and we're talking about how we can help teachers teach the new NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards curriculum to their students. Because a lot of teachers, particularly in elementary school, they're not particularly trained in the sciences, and so particularly natural sciences. So we're able to, with our staff and our volunteers, help them meet those mandates.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. I think that would be a great, fun field trip for a group of students.
Yeah.
And again, is that all ages, or is that younger students, or?
All ages. You know, the way school systems work, it's a lot of times easier for elementary students to grades to come because of their schedule. But we do work with high school students, particularly in our volunteer program. We work at all the VOAG schools in our area, and we're starting to work with colleges more to do internships. So we're trying to get college students to get the experience that they're looking for in their career track with us. So if they're getting into education, environmental education, we can train them, hands-on training at our place, or land management or forestry or any of those types of environmental sciences. We'll have a 3-month internship that we're working on.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Scott, for being with us today. That's Scott Heth, Executive Director of Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut. And I'm Paula Sorrells-Bean with NonProfit World, encouraging you to find your passion and make a difference in someone's life today.